Welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Talk about something new, something that you may not have heard of, but something by a person from the community who's been around for quite a while on Discord. Super helpful guy, solid guy, and I think those types of people who decide to give back to the community and produce something on their own deserve a little bit of a review. So that's where we're going to start. And this one is something called Once Upon Audio. Those of you who may know Nova on Discord, Once Upon Audio is his thing. And he calls this one Phoenix. And so this is what it looks like. And I haven't tried that many buds that are MMCX like this and in the shell type. So I thought it was cool. And for the most part, as I said, I was more interested in hearing it just to see what he's been up to and all the tinkering he's been doing for quite a while. So it's nice to see it kind of formalized in this format. And so these are the shells. These are MMCX, and I'm not going to pull that off right now, but this happens to be a KB ear cable. I probably have more than a few of these somewhere in the closet as well. So solid cable. I like the shells. They actually do fit me a little better. It actually looks quite big, right? I don't know. I'm not a huge earbud guy, but they looked a little bit bigger, but they tend to sit in my ear properly, so I don't really have any complaints on the fit. Certainly, if you do, you can change the foams around or do something different, but for me, I like that. I actually like the shell, and it actually fit me quite well. So, as I said, mostly an intro. Keep an eye on Once Upon Audio. Find them on Facebook, and so we'll see what they do in the future, but plugged it in. First impression, I was like, whoa, that is a very thick sound on Michael Jackson's Beat It. This has a lot of bass, and I'm not sure, it doesn't extend all the way. It's like an earbud, so it doesn't extend super far into the sub bass, but as far as how much bass is there, there's a lot. It's a really, really thick, bassy sound. I mean, it first hit me kind of more of an EDM sound, so I'll talk a little bit about that, but yeah, it was kind of a very thick, bass-heavy, super relaxed treble style sound. Second impression was the stage on some tracks is really big, like Radiohead's Reckoner or the theme from Shaft. And if you haven't heard of the theme from Shaft from Isaac Hayes, do look that one up. It's pretty cool. But and why I kind of point that out, and I was talking to Michael Bruce about the same thing. An IEM with this style tuning with such thick bass, you would expect it to be the stage will be super small and compressed and not extend at all. And to hear it happen on an earbud, I'm not sure it's the earbud, the shell, how the stage actually projects out into a bigger sound, because on an IEM, it probably wouldn't work at all. So I think both of us were kind of caught by a little surprise about how well it does stage. And I think it generally is really good and better than I certainly expected. But on some tracks, it projects really far, and I can't figure out how they do it. It's kind of an earbud thing, and I'm not into earbuds enough to figure out what happens. But yeah, certainly if this was an IEM, typical IEM with that style tuning, the stage would not be good at all. So super impressed, super wondering how that happens. But anyway, so sound-wise, again, very bassy, super warm mid-bass, relaxed enough to play EDM for hours. And it's very much a cure if you're into leaned Harmon versions of A Perfect Circle's Judith or Blasterjack's Rise Up, sets that have almost no mid-bass on Harmon-style sets, and that bass when it's all tucked in. Very much a leaned-out sound, and this is sort of entirely the 180 degrees of all that. It's a lot of thick mid-bass, and it's a really fun version of Judith if you hear that in it with a lot of mid-bass. But the flip side of that, of course, is it can easily overstep in the mid-bass and really lose bass clarity. And I think that's kind of the really delicate balance on a tuning like this, is to give the listener more mid-bass, enough mid-bass to satisfy their preference, but not to overstep into the mids too much, and you start to lose clarity. So on one hand, I think it is tuning, and on the other hand, it's a very personal version of his preference when you hear this. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting one for me to hear, because it's almost like receiving someone's EQ settings, and you're like, whoa, you seem to like a lot of bass, like 4 times more bass than I typically listen to. So yeah, it kind of blew me away. It's like, oh, so that's what you hear, or that's what you like to listen to, or this is how it works on your style tracks. So Yeah, I think it's a very personal version of his preference. I thought was actually very cool. So what would I change? And as I was just talking about, I think there's a slightly more balanced version of mid bass, which still hits as hard and is as thick, but really balance out the thump with opening up the mids. So going back to this stage bit, there's something there. There's something that works very well on this set, but on some tracks it's a little bit smaller, and I think a lot of it is the mid bass level. If you just find a slightly different balance, I think you would have more tracks open up into this beautiful stage, but still retain some level of mid bass. And again, you could hear it also in the mids. The volume at which the mids come forward and Lord sounds like, not the Lord, but Lord the musician, starts to sound like has an edge to her voice, because this is a really warm set and it's kind of a smooth over version of her voice until you turn it up, and then the mids kind of come forward. But that version, that level of volume that you need to get her voice to do that, it's just too high. So I would kind of work on that. Again, it's kind of this mid-bass level, bring it down so her voice has a little bit of an edge to it, and it just needs to be opened up and a little bit more revealed into the mids in that way. But do that without, changing the tuning enough so it still has to sound the way you like it and how you listen to your library. And again, I think it's this personal version of his preferences and how he likes to tune, and balance that with, a typical reviewer like I'm talking about. This general appealing version of a tuning like this would be slightly different. So again, I wouldn't change it enough to ruin his preference, because then you've kind of overstepped in that respect. But yeah, definitely, as I said, mostly just an intro. Keep an eye on this one. Go tag it on Facebook and say, hey, cool set, interested in seeing what you do in the future. And that's what I got on Once Upon Audio's Phoenix. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.